Children, let us learn about another interesting change. Okay, you see there is a beaker of water to which sulfuric acid is added and it is boiled, right? Now you see here beautiful powdered copper sulfate, that blue colored, right? Now this powdered copper sulfate is added to the boiling water till it becomes saturated. Okay, and after that this saturated solution of copper sulfate is filtered, all right, and the filtrate which is collected, it is, you know, allowed to cool, right? Now you can see here in the image on the right, the copper sulfate is, you know, it is poured, the filtrate is poured here into another vessel which has a thread dangling from a pencil, right? And it is allowed to cool and left for about 24 to 30 hours. And after that, the next day, you can see that, you know, beautiful crystals of copper sulfate, they get attached to the thread. So the copper sulfate solution, when it is left like this for a day, the liquid copper sulfate, it precipitates, right? It cools and evaporates and precipitates to form the beautiful crystals of copper sulfate. See here, these beautiful crystals. Now, if the copper sulfate solution, right, when it is mixed, when the copper sulfate is mixed with the boiling water, if the water is boiled for too long, then the copper sulfate crystals become smaller in size, right? Remember, this beautiful process is known as crystallization, and this is a reversible physical change. Now let us learn about some more chemical changes that we come across in our day-to-day lives. One is the digestion of food with enzymes, right, which happens in our mouth, our stomach and intestine. Now during digestion, you know, new substances are formed, like suppose proteins are broken down into amino acids, right? So we get new substances here, and so digestion is also a chemical change. Next comes the ripening of fruits, right? This is also a chemical change. The fruits become sweet, their color changes, flavor changes. Okay, these are all chemical changes. Then during photosynthesis, you know, carbon dioxide and water, they react in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll to form glucose and oxygen, right? So new substances are formed in photosynthesis, so this is also a chemical change. Now the formation of curd, that is curdling of milk, alcohol, these processes are known as fermentation, which are brought about by certain bacteria or fungi like the yeast, right? First, like suppose during the formation of alcohol, you know, grapes, they can, you know, they form alcohol. The sugars, you know, they are fermented and new substances are formed, that is alcohol. So curdling of milk, alcohol formation, right? So these are chemical changes. Now, the production of medicines involves a series of chemical reactions, after which we get a medicine, right? So medicines, plastics, formation of detergents, fertilizers, all these are, you know, results of chemical changes. Now, during rusting, what happens? Iron combines with water or water vapor and oxygen to form iron oxide or ferric oxide. So since new substances are formed, right, here also rusting is a chemical change. Now, during neutralization of acids and bases, an acid and a base react to form salt and water. So this also is an example of a chemical change. Now, burning and explosion are also chemical changes, right? If a log of wood burns or if there's an explosion, you know, ash is produced and gases are released, right? Smoke is produced, sometimes like heat and light. In explosion we get, right, heat and light and sound, isn't it? So these are all examples of chemical changes. Now, if you leave apples or potatoes, if you cut them and leave it in the open for some time, you'll find that they become brown in color. The cut portions become brown. You know, this is because of chemical changes which is brought about by certain enzymes, right? So this is actually an oxidation reaction, okay? So browning of these fruits and vegetables are chemical changes. Now, ozone absorbs ultraviolet rays or UV rays and breaks down to oxygen. This also is a chemical change. Now you see here, ozone, which is found in the atmosphere, usually concentrated in the stratosphere, you'll find that this ozone absorbs the UV rays from the sun and it breaks down to form oxygen and one nascent oxygen, right? Now this is a chemical change which is reversible. The oxygen molecule combines with the nascent oxygen, that is oxygen molecule is O2 and the nascent oxygen is O. Okay, so they combine again to form ozone, that is O3, right? So this is a chemical change and it is reversible. Now let us see some events that accompany the chemical changes. One you already know very well. A new substance or more than one new substances are formed during chemical changes. Sometimes in some chemical changes, you get heat, light, radiations like UV rays, right? So they are accompanied, okay? They accompany a chemical change. In some chemical changes, you get sound, like in an explosion, right? Then there is change in smell, taste, color, So these changes usually you'll find when, you know, chemical changes occur, like during curdling of milk, right? Or when the fruits ripen, or maybe, you know, certain chemical changes when the you know, you get compost manure, right? The compost manure is also a result of chemical change. So this manure which you get, you know, the smell and the taste, of course we don't taste compost manure, but if you get the smell, it changes, right? Now there is evolution of gases in some of the chemical changes, like photosynthesis, or, you know, during explosions, right? We get evolution of gases. So these are some of the changes or events that accompany chemical changes.